Welcome back. Week one in the books. Shocking. We had some contenders show out, some pretenders show up, and we still have no clue who's gonna do what, but we do know highest score was exactly who we thought it would be. Matthew Gurman. His team put it together again, a regular season team like Peyton Manning led Colts, 179.52 points. Here's what our highest scorer has to say for this week.
Most points for in the league, and now I got the freshest fucking haircut. We can't be doing the segment every week because I'm gonna have to flex every fucking week.
And he's got the team to go all the way, so we'll see if he can keep it up. Our lowest score, Mr. Josh Gitlin. Here he has a few words himself.
Those of you that know me know that I'm a man who goes by the book. And in the great book itself, the Bible, there reads a passage stating that at the end of days, he who is last shall be made first, and he who is first shall be made the last. So I just want to say what an honor it is to be starting the season in last place, knowing that by season's end, I will be on top. And I will personally guarantee that if by week 14, my team does not have a winning record, I will have hot, steamy shower sex with Mark Thompson, M. Tom's father.
And, it is what it is. I'm Pablo Rosero, back with my friend, Jake Hamilton. Week one in the books. What were your biggest takeaways from this week?
My biggest takeaways were Dinkelberg might be a legit contender.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
I think we have an early favorite for the Losers Challenge, and we still don't know what's going on with Tommy's team.
Hey, this year's Losers Challenge, whoever ends up being last has got to start getting an act together. And after watching his video, I think we do know. Joss, he'll be fine up on that stage. Loser Challenge this year, 5-minute stand-up comedy at a club of the winner's choosing or whatever club we can find. So there's that. But let's really get it started. Week one, most shocking team, in your opinion, who do you have?
I have Officer TC as my most shocking team this week. Officer TC, he just came out and dropped 153, third highest point total of the week. He's the guy that was 13th in the power rankings last year and last week, and all of a sudden he third highest scoring team looked legit.
Hey, he talked that talk and he walked the walk this week. We'll see what happens. He had Garrett Wilson and Jarvis Landry on his bench, so he left some points out there too. Officer TC, Jacoby got 2 votes for most shocking. My pick was Dume, like you had said, came out, won this first week, and he did it with 2 running backs that really didn't do anything. So he had Eno Benjamin and Rashad White. He's going with that true 0 RB tactic. We'll see how that works out for him this year. I doubt it will. Most disappointing. We had 2 votes for Matthew Thompson. Barely got out of it against Tommy Blythe, a team we thought would be taking. Almost walked away with that week 1 win. And you voted for yourself in this part. Why were you most disappointing?
It was just a tough week. I only had 1 player hit the projection. A lot of fumbles across my team, only like 1 or 2 touchdowns. So it's a down week. We expect to bounce back next week.
And that, as you said, some players did struggle for you. We'll catch one soon, but now we come to the fun part of the show, the sports routes start of the week. I'll start. My pick was James Robinson, coming off that Achilles injury, 2 touchdown performance, 19 points on my bench, but far surpassing expectations, far surpassing workload expectations and scoring output. He was one of the better stories of week 1, and then probably the best quarterback of week 1, quite possibly the best overall fantasy player of week 1, behind Saquon and Justin Jefferson. Patrick Mahomes, 2 votes for him. 1 was from you. Why?
He just showed that he's the best quarterback in the league and one of the best quarterbacks one of the most talented quarterbacks to play the game. Almost 400 yards passing, 5 touchdowns. He got a lot of points this week, and most of them were in the air, not even using his feet. So it was just an impressive week. 144.2 passer rating. I don't know. He got a third of Stevie J's points. Pretty impressive.
Yeah. And Mahomes is actually on Officer TC's team, so
That's
he
what
did
I
get
meant. A third of his points.
did get a third of Officer TC's points, which helped push the most shocking dialect. Now the Dinkelberg third of the week, named after last year's loser. My pick was James Cook. Obviously, he had that one carry, one fumble. There were high expectations for the rookie. He was first round in mostly all rookie drafts. He was one in our league. Tommy Blythe lost by about that fumble. Had James Robinson never fumbled that ball, Tommy probably would have won. Your pick was Cam Akers, and I think we all know why. But give us a little insight into Akers this week.
Well, he came back early from his Achilles, so people were expecting him to be healthy and fresh and take over that Rams backfield. And then, getting very few snaps, 3 carries for 0 yards, just not the performance you expect. And McVay didn't sound that. He didn't say anything that encouraging in his press conference to say that would change next week.
Not everyone can come back from an Achilles like James Robinson. James Robinson and Kevin Durant are cut for the same cloth. Cam Akers, clearly not. Devontae Smith had another vote. He had 4 targets, couldn't come down with any of them. A fat goose egg for Andres' team this week. Now, the Country Central Clutch Player of the Week, Leonard Fournette, 3 votes. The reason for it, Tom, as we were saying before, 2 votes for most disappointing. Barely got by Tommy. Leonard Fournette, 17 points in that game. Really got him over the top. He had Dak and Zeke. It should have been a surefire win. Dak and Zeke underperformed. Tom now lost Dak for a couple weeks. We'll keep an eye on that timetable. But Fournette was the guy that really put him over the top. And would Tom be looking at a week 1 loss without Fournette?
Probably.
So, Tom, be glad you got Leonard Fournette this week. And he did say he would see everyone on September 11th, and he showed out. But now we get to the nice meat of these power rankings, the actual rankings part. Jake, start us off. Who's coming in at number 14?
We have a new 14th place team this week. It is Team SSOJ Yeti. He was 11th last week. He dropped 3 spots down to 14th. He was the unanimous 14th place. He lost to our defending champ, our Loeffler, 102 to 75. He was the lowest score of the week by far. Not a bunch of positives from his team. Stafford's elbow looked pretty concerning. He seemed to be struggling out there. And then his backup quarterbacks of Trevor Lawrence and Baker Mayfield didn't have the best weeks either. Still a lot of question marks around both of them. Dalvin Cook and Terry McLaurin are the 2 main bright spots of this team. They both show that they're still really good players, but other than that, he's got nothing. Brian Edwards as his wide receiver 2 is a pretty good indicator that you're going to be competing for the toilet bowl.
And we made a comment on that last week, and there's been no effort to change upon that. So we'll see what happens there. Yep. Coming in at 13th, moving up 1 spot. We have Team Dinkelberg Dumais, and yeah, he won this week, and he beat another team that's going to be low on our rankings. But it's really hard to trust his team at the current moment. Carson Wentz went off 39 points, 39.72 points in our league. He had Gabe Davis, 16.8 points, and he had Dolphins defense who had 20 points. Wentz and Gabe Davis came by way of trades with me, so kind of hurts, but it happens. But he walked away with a win, 114 to 99.5 against JJ Bear, who is coming up shortly on this rankings. But I don't know if we can really trust it. 20 points from Dolphins defense. They have a tough schedule. You might not get that every week. Carson Wentz is Carson Wentz. So Dinkelberg, celebrate the win. Take it to heart, but let's see what happens the rest of the year. Don't trade away your first round pick, buddy. Who's up next?
Next, we got Team Horny for Trades, Thomas Blythe himself. He was 12th last week, no change this week. His average vote this week was 12.33. He had the closest loss of the week, losing to M. Tom by less than 1 point. He only scored 102 points, but had a very high max points for of 155. So that shows that he had Devin Duvernay on his bench and the Steelers defense on his bench both do really well. Some of the positives coming out of this week was Clyde Edwards-Helaire and Michael Carter both had pretty good weeks with decent usage, but it's Michael Carter especially, it's hard to expect that to continue with Breece Hall. He looked pretty good in the passing game, and you expect his snap share to go up. Jahan Dotson and Duvernay both had 2 touchdown weeks, scoring him a lot of points with Duvernay from the bench, but you can't really. It's hard to predict each of those guys get 2 touchdowns every week, so there should be some regression from his team, especially in the max points forward side. And then he also lost Chris Godwin for a few weeks, so that's not looking good.
I know you're celebrating Tommy's max points for going down. Jake owns Tommy's first round pick. For those who don't recall, Jake also has 4 total first round picks. But moving on, JJ Bear Josh coming in at number 11, down 1 from last week when he was 10. And Josh's team is very interesting because he has both Deshaun Watson and DeAndre Hopkins. He's got those Texans guys, former Texans guys, and they're missing time. All he has to do is win enough games to get into the playoffs. Once Watson and Hopkins are back, he should be a contender. I mean, he's got Austin Eckler and Nick Chubb, 2 top 10 running backs. Michael Pittman, who should be in for a breakout. Mike Williams, who struggled this week. We don't know why. I'm sure Justin Herbert's going to find him. He's a big, reliable target for Herbert. Hunter Henry, who is also a reliable target for Mac Jones. Sammy Watkins just, will be replaced by Hopkins by the time Hopkins comes back. And the rest of his team really has some balance. He now traded away Justin Fields for Devontae Parker, a second and a third this week. Traded with me, actually. So now I have Justin Fields to back up Jameis Winston. But I like Josh's team. I think there's a chance he's going to move up in these rankings and contend. But it's going to take some time. His team's really got to figure it out. And he's got to find a way to win these games. He's also got to fill out his bench, too. I mean, he doesn't even have dart throws on that bench. He's got 5 open bench spots. So we'll see what happens with that. Coming in at 10, most shocking.
We have Bang Bang. We have Bang Bang Freeze, Officer TC, coming in at 10th place. He was 13th last week. He had an improvement of 3 spots. His average vote was at 9.67. He beat Big Ricky by 33. He scored 3rd highest points total, as we said, with 153. He had Cordero Patterson picked up where he left off, scoring a lot of points, gained like 87% or something of the carries. Christian Kirk had a really good breakout week, had a high target share, and scored a lot of points also. Looks like the main target in that Jaguars offense. Sterling Shepard had a pretty big week, took advantage of the New York Giants having no other receivers. And then Jarvis Landry on his bench still showed that he's a decent player, just need to get into a better situation. So he should hopefully start him next week and have that to improve his starting lineup. Mahomes, by far his top performer. We already talked about him, scored 1/3 of his points. He's definitely has a stronger team than we initially thought, but probably still kind of that bottom tier of teams where he can maybe break into the mid-table, maybe sneak into the playoffs, but that's pretty unlikely for him.
And he did it last year, so we'll definitely need to keep an eye on him.
Yeah.
Coming in at number 9, down 3 spots from our initial ranking. Even coming off a win, reigning champion, Team R. Loeffler, Remy. It's not so much that he won or lost. He played the lowest scoring team. He only was able to score 102. And he only had 4 guys score over 10 points. Kyler Murray really led the way in garbage time. James Conner didn't do much. That offense didn't do much as a whole. Mike Evans had a good game. That was a good piece that he traded for in the offseason. DJ Chark, another good piece. That'll be interesting once Jameson Williams comes back. And then Dalton Schultz at 9.7. Good tight end. He should be a tight end the entire year and help him out. But we really got to see his other pieces. Adam Thielen couldn't get over 6 points. Tyler Lockett, that offense is going to be a train wreck, even though they just won, shockingly. And Mike Davis, bad beat of the week. Got beat out by Kenyon Drake. That was a tough one. But Remy's team can possibly be one of those other fringe playoff teams, but like it was last year, once he's in the playoffs, we'll see what happens if he can get there. But at 8, Mr. Big Ricky, losing week.
Yeah, he was 9th last week. He still improved his spot even with the loss. He had an average vote of 8.66. He lost Officer GC by 30, but he still had a decent week scoring 120 points. Joe Burrow and Devontae Adams just showed like they were the studs they are. They both scored a lot of points. Both looked like some of the top players at their position. He had 2 good performances also from his young receivers, Drake London and Amon-Ra St. Brown. So he's hoping for them to continue to break out and just kind of help to hit that consistent tier of strong performances. But he is concerned in his running back position with Cam Akers having 3 carries and 0 yards and McVay not really giving him a vote of confidence. And then also Najee Harris's foot is like he got taken out of the game a little bit. He's good. It looks like he'll play next week, but it seems like a lingering problem that could last all season. So who knows whether or not he'll be healthy enough to help Big Ricky make the playoffs.
And then he's got Travis Homer and Todd Gurley to round out
That's
his
it.
running back group. So it's
So
definitely
not
going to be interesting to
depth
keep
there
an
if he
eye
does
on.
get hurt.
And then coming in at number 7, remains in the same spot, was tied for 7th last week. We've got I'm Stevie J, who really was hurt by not just playing the best team in the league, but also having a bad week from Aaron Rodgers. Rodgers struggled, and really that's what hurt him the most. The rest of his team had a great week. Russell Gage also struggled, but Corey Davis and Khalil Herbert on his bench could replace Russell Gage, who is now in a fight for targets in that Buccaneers very loaded offense. So, he will have other options to go with, but really his team's going to go as far as Rodgers takes him. 3.7 points from your starting quarterback, the reigning league MVP, is not going to help you. So we'll see how he bounces back next week. You are definitely keeping an eye to see how Rodgers bounces back next week. So you're pretty interested in that too. You got a dog in that fight.
Yeah. Yeah, I'm hoping he looks a lot better, or the entire offense as a whole. Next up, we have Josh Supremacy, Pablo at the number 6 spot. Last week he was tied 7th. This week he gets 6th on his own. His average vote was a 6.33. He lost to Ethan, but yeah, he had a pretty good 120 points this week. Gibson, Waddle, and Bateman were always top performers. Gibson will hopefully keep performing well and perform well enough so that whenever Robinson's back from his gunshot injuries, that he still keeps the starting job. Waddle and Bateman, good young receivers, had nice breakouts, and hopefully they can keep those performances up this year. His poor performers were Hunter Renfrow and Juju, but it's not too much of a concern. They both got some targets. It's just a down week. It's week 1. You can't take too much from it. The one he's really excited for, and I'm not that happy about, is James Robinson had a very big week coming back from his Achilles injury. He had a big 2 touchdown game, scored, I think, 17 or 18 points.
19.
19 points. had him on his bench because he didn't actually trust him, but he should have because he came back big. Hopefully, he's hoping James Robinson can keep that up and keep ETN away from the snap share. And he's definitely the top of this next tier of teams below the top 5, and he's definitely a favorite to sneak into that last playoff spot.
Really need better performances, either an upgraded tight end or a better performance from Hunter Renfrow. Brutal to watch. And then Juju just did enough, but I just traded first for him. So
yeah, exactly.
It was a tough one. But coming in at 5, that tier of 5 who we think are contenders, these next 2 teams we think are gonna have to show something before we really put them up with the top 3. But coming in at 5 is Tom, who we had as most disappointing for the most part. He struggled to really get anything off. He has question marks at quarterback now with Dak getting hurt, and 103.26 points was enough for him to win, but it wasn't enough to prove that you can be one of those contenders. Our first year, our 2019, 2020 league winner, Zeke struggled. Robert Wood struggled. He does have Jeff Wilson now, so that should help, but he's going to be relying a lot on Jared Goff. And how much can you really rely on Jared Goff in fantasy? will be determined. But
You should be hitting up JJ Bear for one of his three quarterbacks.
three remaining hey, Josh is now probably not going to move a quarterback until Watson's back, so we'll see. But I also do have our number 4 guy here to preface. Jake, you are at 4. Tough loss to the second highest scoring team in Undressed, who absolutely beat the brakes off of you.
Yeah, not
So it's tough. Rashad Penny and Travis Etienne struggled. Both failed to surpass 7 points. Etienne obviously had more snaps than James Robinson, 51-49, but Etienne couldn't outscore Robinson. He struggled. He fumbled. The rest of his teams, T. Higgins could be out with a concussion. Kyle Pitts had the targets, couldn't get the catches. And the rest of your team did fine, but your running back position is going to be the difference between being in this sub tier of the top 5 versus being a contender in the top 3. But we move on. The top 3, the glory spots. You have our next 2 guys. Who are they?
We have at number 3, Team Ethan McGrady. He was 4th last week. He's moved up 1 spot. He was the unanimous 3rd place. He beat Pablo and scored the 4th highest points this week with 146. He was carried by his very strong core of Diggs, Cup, and Kelsey, who all scored over 25 points this week. CMC didn't have the CMC level week, but he still scored 13, 14 points, which it's like in a couple weeks he'll be back to being CMC and he'll have another guy putting up over 25 points a week also. His only negative from this week is his flexes looked really bad. He had Edmonds, who scored 7, and Mooney and Allen Robinson, who had like 2 and 3 or something like that. So not great weeks. He's going to be hoping for bounce backs from them. But with that strong core, he's proved he's very much one of the top contenders. And as long as they keep performing like they do, he'll be up there at the end of the year.
Yeah, I thought I was completely out of that game after the Thursday night matchup where I was already down 70. So I was able to tie it up. Well, I was able to tie it up after the Sunday morning games, but then Derrick Henry, Hunter Renfrow, and Juju just faded. So completely, I lost by 28. So he didn't beat the brakes off of me like I thought he would, but it's tough.
Still pretty comfortable.
So tough week 1 loss.
And then coming in at second, unanimous second place last week, David Johnson's son, Andres. He blew me out with his score of 162. He had the second highest score of the week. Josh Allen and Justin Jefferson just looked like they were the number 1 overall players at their position, like they are. Judy had a big 100-yard week with a big long touchdown. To cap it off, really just like rub it in for that Monday night game. Kamara and his young receivers of Ayuk, DJ Moore, and Devontae Smith all kind of had down weeks, but they're all strong players and they'll probably bounce back and he'll be scoring even more than 163 points.
And somehow going to find a way to choke this league once again. He did not make the playoffs last year, and he didn't make all that many moves. But Kamara is sporting allegedly a rib injury, so that'll be an injury to watch. I know I'm watching it in the generic league where half my running backs disappointed there too. But I digress. Now, the top spot, most points scored, Mr. Matthew Gurman, bottom feeders, because he can't seem to win it all, came out with a vengeance this year, scoring 179.52, winning by nearly 64 points. And, complete team effort. Both of his running backs scoring 28 points. Saquon Barkley scoring 32 as a flex. Breece Hall and Amari had down weeks. CeeDee Lamb had a down week, and he still managed to score 179. So take what you can. He's going to miss Elijah Mitchell, kind of, sort of, probably not. They'll just toss him on IR and still help with their running back. So M. Grims is our de facto number 1 until proven otherwise. There's no holes now that Jalen Hurts looks like a legitimate QB1 just because he's a runner. As an NFL quarterback, he still does have a long way to go. But there you have it. Those are the rankings. We do have a word from our reigning champ that we missed out on last week. So here he is, why he believes he will be back and how he will be back.
What is up? I hate my sons. It's your league winner, R. Leffler. And it's okay if you don't recognize me. Maybe you recognize this belt. This is a shout out to all the people that have doubted my team. That's fine. We know how it worked out last year. You want this belt? Come get it.
And that's all from us. Another week in the books. we're looking forward to week 2, seeing if we can figure out more who are the contenders, who are the pretenders, and where Tommy lies in all of this, because his team will be different by midseason. I'm Pablo. That's
I'm Jake.
and we will be back next week with our IHMS fantasy rankings.